Hi, my name is Joan Benjamin and I've done some lecturing in the graduate certificate in higher ed, now called Graduate Certificate in Academic Practice, and I want to talk to you this morning just a little bit about learning in small groups and the workshop that's being run as part of GCAP. It's only after education became organised and structured that learning was expected to occur in large groups. Prior to that, we were used to learning occurring in small groups, in the family, for instance, in prehistoric times, but we've become more organised since then. But we've lost something along the way, I think, and learners become receivers rather than doers in that large auditorium lecture hall, and learning is by transmission, where the teachers transmit the information and the students just become receivers. Remember that in the early years of Oxford and Cambridge that wasn't the case. The small tutorial group was central to learning at Oxford and Cambridge. 4 or 5 students would meet weekly with their scholar or their don, and learning was constructed through conversation, through having prepared material and presented it, and then having it critiqued by peers and by the scholar. The large group, such as the lecture, is extremely useful for the introduction of new ideas, for dealing with lots of people at once, for transmitting information, for creating enthusiasm for a subject, even for arousing passion for a subject. When you think about a political meeting or a street corner meeting, that's what's going on. But if we really want to understand something, if we want to come to grips with its meaning, if we want to practice the skills associated with our subject matter, we can't do that in the large venue. That's when the small group comes into its own. That's the right place to do it. So even though a small group is ideally suited to a learning situation, there are still skills involved in ensuring that the learning takes place and that the group proceeds in a positive and productive way. And that's why that's why we're offering this workshop. There's a large literature now available to help us understand the potential and the process of small group learning and how to facilitate it. And that literature base would be discussed and explained to you in the workshop on facilitating small group learning. The workshop has a set of objectives, and those objectives cover things like, they will give you the opportunity to integrate ideas that you've developed about interactive learning, which is another workshop in its own right, to integrate ideas about interactive learning and the use of small groups. Another learning outcome would be giving you the opportunity to consider, discuss and work out the basic principles of creating a group, of facilitating a group, of managing the group, and of evaluating how the group worked. And of course, assessment is a large part of that. Assessment of work in groups can be quite complicated. Do you assess the work of the individual student? Do you assess the product that the group produces? Do you assess the way in which the group went about producing that product? All of those things need to be considered when you're developing an assessment strategy for working in learning groups. It's also important to consider the different approaches to forming a group. For instance, do you just leave it up to your students and allow them to form a group based on friendship patterns? Do you want to have a group that's made up of students of similar abilities? Or you might want to consider how that would be different to a group that's made up of students with a diverse range of abilities. So they are things also that need to be considered. And working in small groups is not necessarily all about harmony. Sometimes difficulties can emerge. So the workshop will deal with a range of those sorts of difficulties, those sorts of problems and challenges that may emerge, and through discussion work out ways of solving them. And the discussion is important because we believe in our workshops in practicing what we preach. So The workshop on small group learning will actually give you an opportunity to experience learning in a small group with all the highs and lows that go with that. So I really urge you to consider doing that particular workshop as part of the grad cert. Thank you.